touching on various acts of parliament that need to be amended. But I just want to point out a few of those cases that I think there has been some miscommunication and misinformation and distortion around. Let me first start with the issue of Mitumba, or the taxation around Mitumba. You know, this I have noticed has been dropped out of the final bill that has come from the National Assembly. Of course, you know, the final bill comes from the National Assembly. But our proposal was to have it, and I still insist we should have it. There is miscommunication around this. Why? The Mitumba representatives of the Mitumba business community came to see me after seeking an appointment with me. And I met them together with my team at the National Treasury. They expressed frustrations with regards to the current taxation arrangement. Because when you bring in Mitumba into the country, there are taxes that you pay at the point of entry. And then you follow it through with more taxes down the lane, including income tax paid for by the Mitumba people or the Mitumba business people. They are saying it is cumbersome. First, their line of business, the requirement of filing returns and even engaging accountants to calculate how much profit they make so that they are taxed on that is too costly to them, because they will be paying those accountants. There are KRA people chasing after them, asking them for payment. So they asked for a simplified tax system where they pay at the point of entry and no one comes again to demand for any taxes. That is why, apart from VAT, which is paid at source, at the point of entry, we agreed with them that for income tax, we deem 5% of custom value of imported goods, whether clothes or whatever it is, as profit. 5% as profit. And then we tax that 5% at 30% to give you 1.5%. And it becomes a final tax. No one chases these business people again for other taxes. This came from the Mitumba people. It was their request. And as an office and as a government that listens to public participation, to Kenyans, we believed that that was the right way to go. And that is the proposal that we took to the National Assembly, but unfortunately it has been dropped. But I still want to insist that that particular provision, we will recommend to Parliament to bring it back as an amendment, because it is addressing an industry problem. And before anyone criticizes this, they should engage the Mitumba people themselves. And saying that the Mitumba clothes will be more expensive is far from the truth. The truth is that if these Mitumba people were to pay taxes today, which they should, based on their income, they will be spending much more than deeming 5%, only 5% of their custom, the custom value of goods as profit and then taxing it at 30%. It is with their full backing and support. And you can ask the representatives, you can engage the representatives of Mitumba business. So it was not a way of us raising more money. There is no more money to raise. It was to address industry problem. And so even though it is not in the final bill, but we still believe from the National Treasury that that is an amendment that should be carried by the National Assembly. The other issue that has also been blown out of proportion is the issue of phones. And being reported that now phones will be more expensive. Far from it. The phones will be more cheap. Far much cheaper. How? Presently, when you import any phone, you pay the following. There is value-added tax of 16%. There is import duty, custom import duty of 25%. There is excise tax of 10%. There is import declaration fee of 2.5%, and there is railway development levy of 2%. If you add all that, it's coming to almost 55%. Now we are saying we collapse all these taxes into one, which is excise duty, which is currently at 10%. We make it 25% and do away with all other taxes on phones. But now the point of levying the tax is shifted from the point of entry to when you are activating your phone. The beauty with that is you are only going to be able to start paying tax on a phone that you are using, not phones that are kept in stores by business people. But anytime you want to activate your cellular phone, then now you pay the tax. So in a sense, it should make phones cheaper, especially imported phones, cheaper. Because now the taxes are reduced. The total rate of tax is at 25%. So whoever is saying that this proposal is going to make cellular phones expensive is completely missing the point. The other issue that has been raised is the issue of rental income tax. I don't know where they got it from. The rental income tax is still at 7.5%. It's not 10%. Maybe someone came across some drafts. And by the way, I have no issues with my officers releasing some information that is still being cooked, because this is a transparent office. Tax proposals come. They are processed by my team, and I approve them. Before I approve any tax proposal, it is not approved. That the one on rental income tax, I personally signed that it must remain at 7.5%. So whoever is saying that we are increasing it to 10%, that is your finance bill, not the finance bill that has been published. The other issue was on the cards, the cards charges. Again, even with the current arrangement, let me explain it this way. This is not a tax that is going to be levied on consumers of financial services that are being offered by cards. Far from it. The financial institutions engage some professionals who come up with cards and sell to them. And when they sell to them, the current arrangement, there is no provision on how to tax those people who make income out of selling card services to the financial institutions. So we are saying, if you offer service to financial institutions, you are selling them cards, whatever, MasterCard, Visa card, or whatever card. Those cards, you get income. You should pay tax on that income that you derive by selling such an important service to the financial institution. How can someone reject that? That is broadening the tax base. All Kenyans who are making income should pay tax. And we are not taxing the consumer. We are taxing someone who is drawing an income from financial institutions, and therefore should pay tax out of the cards. On the other issue that has been flagged off is this issue of pay as you earn. We have not dropped that issue of pay as you earn. The changes that we had proposed and which I spoke widely about. What my team is doing is to do simulation. The first simulation was that we are going to lose income of about revenue of about 35 billion shillings per year. And we are looking at the economic situation as it is. And we are looking at the impact of personal income tax reforms that we have carried out at Kenya Revenue Authority. And before this public participation engagement ends, we are going to make a decision. As a matter of fact, we have agreed with the head of state that this is a matter that we are considering, as we had already communicated. So before 30th of June, before this bill is passed, the government is likely to propose amendments to align pay as you earn to the proposal that we had given the people of Kenya in terms of increasing the allowable income for tax purposes to 30,000 per month, up from 24,000. So it is not taken off the table. I could see some media is reporting that I've backtracked. I have not backtracked. We are considering that very seriously, and before we conclude the Finance Bill of 2026, chances are that we are going to have the new tax rates on pay as you earn. So I just wanted to clarify those, unless you have other issues that you want to be clarified. Is there any other issue? Maybe the other issue is on the time for filing returns. Yeah, I think that also came out. Remember, we are talking about filing returns for the previous calendar year. Like the income tax that you are filing returns on as an individual, which requires you to refile returns by 30th of June, is the December 2025, what you earned up to 2025 December. And these are individual income tax, income earned during that period. So we are saying that once December, you come to the end of December, you have January, you have February, you have March and April. Why can't you file returns between January and April, so that we don't wait until towards the end of the year is when everybody files returns, and therefore KRA has no time really to check on the accuracy of your filed returns. An individual, with most of them with salaries, by December you know how much you have earned, and then you have January, you have February, P9 your employer can give you. So why do you have to wait until June? Honestly, unless it is for some mischief. We are giving you 4 months. You file the returns. Then Kenya Revenue Authority has 2 months to verify the same, so that we don't spill over to the following year with the taxes for the previous year. That is what we are trying to cure with this amendment. It is not putting pressure. The problem with us Kenyans is that we wait until the last minute. Then we jam the system with so much filings. No one stops you today even filing your returns in February. You can do it in February, you can do it in March. We are saying do it up to April. After that, then KRA comes in to check and authenticate and verify your filed returns. If you have nil return, really, why are you waiting to June? If you are sure you have nil return, you have not earned anything. In fact, you should do it the first day of the year. Immediately December closes like this, 1st January, file your return, if it is nil return. Yeah. But you find now everybody with the nil returns waiting until 30th of June. Then they jam the system with their nil return. We are saying, please do it early. What is wrong with that? That it becomes a big story? Or we are just trying to look for something, my friends, to make a story out of finance bill? I know we have tried to be very careful in trying to make sure that we don't increase tax rates. So you are trying to check something that would make the bill look bad. But it is good. This one is a perfect bill. We are even clarifying so many good things that were not very clear. Like if you die, God forbid, and you are a pensioner and you die and someone else is supposed to enjoy that pension, in the current arrangement, it is not clear whether that person should enjoy the tax exemption. We are clarifying that any pension benefit, even going to a beneficiary, should not attract taxes. So those are the things that we are trying to clarify. Someone made a very wild allegation that we are going to make bottled water expensive. Yet we are doing the opposite. I don't know whether some people read this bill or they create their own. We are removing excise duty on bottled water because bottled water has become, it's no longer luxury. And we are making it cheaper. And we are encouraging that people can get into that business, make bottled water, then Kenyans should be encouraged to buy bottled water, which is, I believe, is safer for drinking. Then someone says we are now making bottled water more expensive. How do we make it expensive? By removing tax from it. So the bill that is making bottled water expensive is not my bill. It is either your bill or it is a bill created by some other ghost somewhere. Mine is making bottled water cheaper. Any question?
Question.
Yes.
I think on the taxpayers and the filing, if June was a problem, that's why people are saying maybe it might strain them. But I don't know what KRA is planning to support that early filing. That's what KRA is saying.
But why is it straining if you are filing for income earned up to 31st December the previous year?
It was straining in June, that's why they're saying.
It is straining because everybody waits until June. So we are saying majority should file their returns by April.
Okay. But that's not my question, sis. My
Yes.
question is on the VAT on digital financial services. How do you think that aligns with maybe global trends? I don't know why you picked this up.
Where is that in my bill?
No, you're talking about the financial service.
The card.
Services, the card. So the bill, the tax on it, where did you pick that up? How does it align with global?
You see, my friend, let me just ask you a very simple question. Today you offer professional service to the bank and you are paid. Are you not paying income tax? You are. Then someone who comes up with a card which is going to be used by banks also makes money out of that card. And by the way, they don't make cheap money. They make good money. Someone who crafts a card that you use in the machines or whatever, they make a lot of money. Why shouldn't they not pay tax?
So my question is...
It is everywhere in the world. Is it probably only Kenya where such a service is not?
And Kenyan fintechs do well as startups. That's why I'm saying, what are some of the things that you've done to make sure, even though you're broadening that tax base, it's not like it will hurt them?
I don't think we are hurting anybody. If you are innovative enough and you create such income. And by the way, those who design the cards, are they really small business people? Are they really small business people? Those who create the cards which these financial institutions use, they make money in millions. And why should a mama mboga in the street pay tax and you make millions out of a bank and you don't pay? You know, that is the contradiction that I don't understand. Just because you can get to social media and communicate effectively than the mama mboga, I am here to protect every Kenyan, to broaden the tax base for everybody, including those who cannot get to the social media and be active. I just want to see someone who is not making money tax, and yet you, from your meager salary and my salary and anybody else's salary, 30,000 to 50,000, we pay tax. Someone makes millions of shillings and goes scot-free just because he's providing financial service. I don't think that's fair. That is not the tax base that we want to have. We want a broader tax base. All of us consume public services. Whether high class or low class, we all consume the same services. We should pay for it. Yes.
Just three questions from me. I begin with pay, and we had the backtracking headline ourselves, and
yeah.
I would just say that there was a wide expectation that
it would be in the...
would have been there because, of course, you've spoken about it before. The president mentioned during Labor Day also that people can expect that. You've mentioned the simulations you had to do, and I'm curious to know whether those simulations will be done by the time we are done with the finance bill, or perhaps it's a tax laws amendment further down there. What would be the expectations on that? Then a clarification on VAT Act. This is the parts on excise. There's some exemptions on money transfer. services that sort of leaves out digital services from traditional finance, that puts transfer services for digital traders and VAT at 16%. You would clarify that.
I hope, Mwenda, you were picking that, because that second one seems not to be very clear for me, but we can.
The last one on
maybe you could tell me the clause where it is in the bill.
I can.
You can get it, and I can read it quickly, and I will understand. The moment I read it, I know I'll get it.
Yes. Then,
yes.
The last one is on excise on imports from EAC. This is the likes of paper, glass, and furniture.
Yeah.
The feeling is that this could be an escalation of non-tariff barriers from a regional perspective. Someone looking at it from Uganda, Tanzania, will clarify.
No, anything about the East African community, or presently my team is in Tanzania, and they are executing that. So if the agreement that will come out of that will inform the final amendment that will take to the National Assembly. You know, we have to come together as a East African community. I'm supposed to be Tanzania on 15th. Unfortunately, I'll be held up. But my team will be there so that they agree on the final tariffs and non-tariff issues that will be discussed. On the issue of pay as you earn, the simulation is presently being done. Actually, we have some reports. What we were checking was, you know, there are so many things happening at the same time. Remember, there's a war in the Middle East. We are looking at the impact of that war. Already, we have reduced VAT on petroleum products. We don't know for how long. So that is something we must factor in our revenue projections. We are also looking at the overall impact on the economy. But there are reforms that we have also implemented at the Kenya Revenue Authority, particularly targeting personal income tax. We wanted the personal income to broaden the base for personal income tax to be to increase, and then that would help us to compensate for the loss in this pay as you earn. However, we are in a conversation, and we have agreed with the head of state that this is an amendment that we may carry, even regardless of the impact it will have on our revenue, because we feel it is important for the economy. So chances are that very high that these amendments will be carried in this finance bill, not waiting for tax laws amendment. We were just watching, because, you know, we have up to June to be able to conclude. So we were doing simulations, assessing, and looking at the records from Kenya Revenue Authority. Remember, Kenya Revenue Authority told us that the impact of personal income tax reforms would be realized from March, April, May. So we are trying to look at those figures just to see the final impact. But I will tell you that consideration is being made to include this adjustment in this bill, not tax laws amendment bill coming later. So I don't know whether you found the other provision. As you look for it, Bloomberg, did I see your hand?
Yes. So,
okay, you go first. Yes.
Just a quick rider on Kefa's question. You've talked about a simulation that could lead to a 35 billion loss in revenue. Could you just tell us what that looks like?
How does it look like, namna gani?
In terms of, so.
You know, I'm not getting you.
Okay.
How does it look like? That 5 billion just looks like that 5 billion. I'm wondering how it...
In terms of that simulation...
You see, we are proposing that the tax allowable amount, where we have the tax relief.
Yeah.
If you're earning up to 24,000, you pay zero tax, because the tax relief is equal to the tax payable. Now we are saying we wanted to move that to 30,000 and zero rate it. Say from 1 shilling, because no one earns 0 shilling, from 1 shilling to 30,000, you pay 0%. Then from 30,000 to 50,000, you pay at 25,000. Yet today, from 38,800 to above 50,000, you pay at 30%. So that's a reduction of 5%. From 24 to 30,000 is also a reduction to 0. Now all that compounded gives a budget hole, meaning we are going to collect less by 35 billion shilling. That is the assessment that my team has worked on. So we are looking at, if that is the case, where do we get revenue to compensate for this? Or what do we do? Do we cut expenditure to compensate? Because you must have a balancing effect. Now, our initial projection was to use the increased revenue collection from personal income tax out of the reforms that we are carrying out at the Kenya Revenue Authority to compensate for this. As a matter of fact, chances are that if the reforms bear fruit, we will collect much more from personal income tax, which will directly compensate this. The other area is the rental income tax. So those are the things that we are working on, but that may not stop us from implementing or actualizing that proposal that we have announced publicly in terms of adjusting the tax rates. Yes. Yes, you, then I come to you.
Yes, Waziri, the projection is to raise about 120 billion shillings from these tax proposals. How confident are you that you will yield this? Because previously, Treasury has projected revenue that it has not been able to raise, and down the line, the budget has to be very confident.
Yeah, a bit more realistic. First, there is the bit that we are expecting to give some tax amnesty in the course of the year. That should give us about 30 billion in revenue. And then we have also made some adjustments here and there, especially on tax administrative procedures that should give us that yield. Besides that, there is the personal income tax that I've talked about. That is an area that we think would give us much more than even what we are projecting. So we are working very hard to make sure that the personal income tax, the reforms that we are carrying out, realizes the full potential on personal income tax and rental income tax. With that, we should be good in terms of our projections. However, I also want to point out that we have revised our projection downwards. If you looked at the numbers that we are now putting across for revenue projection. Why? Because of the current development. Clearly, we can see there is the external shock that is going to affect us. And that is why the budget deficit has risen to 5.3%. From the earlier projected 4.7. It's not out of nothing. The expenditure has not really risen much. The expenditure is in the region that we took to Parliament with budget policy statement. But the revenue has come down, and that is why the deficit has gone a little high. Yes?
I think you've partly answered one of my questions.
And partly not answered. Yes.
Yes.
So ask the part that I have not answered.
Now, the other question is, should the revenue underperform again in the next financial year, what measure will you be having? Will it be more on the deeper cuts on the spending side, more borrowing, or additional taxes?
Chances are that we may, because the borrowing space is shrinking, and you can see we are spending so much money in terms of debt service. I would not want to go that route to borrow more. We would want to try as much as possible to live within our means. And that would call for some adjustment in expenditure. But I must also point out that expenditure has also become very inflexible because the space is shrinking by the day. If you look at our expenditure in its totality, first, there is the 1.5 trillion going to debt service. And then you have another almost a trillion going to salaries, right? So that's already 2.5 trillion. Then you bring 420 billion going to counties. But if you add the conditional grants, it's almost coming to 500. So 500 add to 2.5 is 3 already, yeah? So you find then the other recurrent expenditure, you go to security sector, you have education, taking money you cannot do without supporting free secondary, free primary, and there's even demand to put more money there. We have the health sector, primary health care alone, we are putting 18 billion to it. Emergency, chronic, and critical illnesses, another 4 billion. Yeah? And then the other expenditures in agriculture, fertilizer subsidy, which if we don't do, there will be no food security. Again, that is taking another 19 billion. So you see, you look at all this, yeah, you realize that we realistically don't have that leverage, that latitude in terms of cutting our expenses. So therefore, Kenya Revenue Authority must perform. That's why we are putting a lot of reforms there, so that the only avenue we have, the only space, revenue. We must increase revenue without increasing taxes.
So without more borrowing, are you able to give update on that UAE loan? Will it be shared or will you
Pardon?
The UAE loan, the 1.5 billion.
That one is long forgotten, my friend. You see, you are talking of history. That was a 2025 year.
Yeah.
We didn't take it. And there are other avenues. You can go Eurobond. We are right now borrowing money from Samurai bond. Samurai bond is almost just about 4-5%. It's much cheaper. So we don't just go for loan because it's available. We go for loans based on our own calculations and assessment and costing. So UAE loan is not our priority now. We will, if we feel we need it, maybe in future we may go for it, but for now it's not on the table. Two more questions. Yes, first, let me start you, Walter.
Thank you. Very quick. You've answered one of the questions, so this one will be very quick. Waziri, there is an uncomfortable question on who qualifies to file return. There is specific, especially on students and employed people who are also running small business, and the failure to file return, the consequences in terms of legal consequences on late file. Filing return is made easy. The opposite is true in equal measure. However, also the concern is based on declaration of multiple sources of income. So in all this, the pay as you earn has been synchronized, that everything is automated. Can this be done with the filing so that Kenyans don't jam the system? Thank you.
First, what makes it difficult to go that route is the informality of our economy. Our economy has a big chunk of it in the informal sector. So there is a limit to which you can even go with automation. But we are really trying to make sure that we automate most of our processes, and that is being done. You can see there is a big change in terms of automation and deploying technology. But in terms of who should file returns, anyone who qualifies to be a taxpayer, when you have a PIN number, personal identification number, you must file return. How would someone know you don't have income? Even students get income. You know, you do part-time jobs, you generate money. I mean, if you generate income, you should pay part of that income as tax, because that is the law. So anyone with a PIN number must file returns. If you have not made any income in the year, you file nil return. If you have made, file it and demonstrate that you have paid taxes. But if you make filing returns optional, then you run the risk of no one filing the returns at all.
But Waziri, the last one. So if issuing penalties is also, how is issuing penalties helping to generate revenue, or does it,
it enforces compliance.
Discourage even people who
it enforces compliance. I will tell you, there are people, if you don't have penalty, they will not file return, even when they make billions. Even penalty for payment date, if you don't put it, people will wait until the end of the year. And the country must run. How could we run without money? If everyone was to wait for 30th June to bring, just imagine that. If all of us decide that now there is no law requiring you to pay as you earn on a particular date, or corporate tax at a particular date, or VAT at a particular date, that you can pay it anytime so long as it's in the course of the year. Everybody will wait for June, and from July to May, there will be no money to run the country. Then in June, we have all those billions. How will we absorb them? So that is why it is spread, that when you generate income, file returns, pay you. I mean, when you generate income, pay your income tax. And there is a date. And when the time comes for filing returns, file it. If you don't, penalty. That is what is enforcing compliance, by the way. Without that, there would be no compliance. Yes?
All right, so finally, I get to ask my question. The first one was rejoined on CAFAs. So, and this is particularly on some of the proposals that seemingly are going to enhance KRA's in terms of tax collection. And this is particularly the amendments on the Tax Procedures Act and some of the proposals therein, particularly section 29. Some of the experts that I've been able to speak to on this.
Which clause is that? And that clause 42?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
On the tax procedures.
Yes.
Yes. So the argument that we are currently getting is that this then, what this will do is, if you have a system-generated revenue liability versus what I have personally declared, because the current system is that the taxes that we pay, our tax liabilities, is on voluntary declaration basis. However, they feel that if the revenue authority is going to be given access to all this data, there could be a mismatch between what is in the system and what I have declared, which then means it's going to complicate, in terms of my tax compliance is going to be complicated, whether I run an SME or I'm doing businesses on the side.
So you are talking about the commissioner may, in accordance with the information obtained, in accordance with issue an assessment on the income of a person as he may deem necessary. Yes. The commissioner shall rely on the information submitted to the commissioner under section 35(5). First of all, let me make it very clear that this information, even as we speak, is with the commissioner. So take it from there. You know, sometimes when we see these amendments, we interpret them wrongly. Already the commissioner has all the legal framework to look for your information anyway from the financial records. You may not know, but they have that information. What this law is trying to do, my friend, is to ask the Commissioner General to stop being lazy. We are just telling the Commissioner General, please don't be lazy. You don't just sit at your towers there and wait for people to file their returns. You should pre-populate. You should go ahead and look and do an assessment on Mbadi. And it is an assessment. If I don't agree with it, I'll respond to Commissioner General and tell him, no, this is not my income, this is not my income, this is not my income. And I think that is what happens in most jurisdictions. It's only Kenya where we have relied heavily on self-assessment. It's like we voluntarily decide on what to pay and wait for Commissioner General now to do his own audit later. So what we are saying, instead of waiting to do audit later, why don't you go ahead, you have the powers, tell Mr. XYZ that this is the tax you are supposed to pay, send him a note, then that person will say, no, this is not my tax, and responds. That does not mean that is a tax liability already. He's only informing you that according to your records, this is what you should pay. Yeah?
So there was that one part. However, there's a line in there that says that the commissioner is sort of authorized to obtain information under any other written laws in Kenya. And some of these experts believe that this then could create a loophole of the KRA being a bit excessive in terms of their implementation and trying to enforce this compliance. However, the other part is that the amendment also proposes to empower the commissioner to issue agency notices during ongoing disputes. Currently, businesses are not required to pay that tax until the dispute is resolved. However, some of those amendments, there's a fear.
Yeah. In fact, your last one has been very unfair. That one, I hope I'm answering the question that you have asked.
Yeah.
That has been very unfair. You see, where KRA has assessed you and found that you should pay X as amount of tax, then you go and challenge it, and you lose the case. The mere fact that you have appealed, just appealing without getting an order, you cannot pay that tax even for 10 years. I think that is wrong. You are supposed to get explicit order to appeal the tax. Then, now it cannot be collected. But if you have not been able to convince the lawyers, and by the way, Rispa and Mwenda, if there's something you feel you should add, you just walk up here and you add. Yeah? Yeah, you can, Rispa, come and clarify. But I will tell you that if you look at our tax laws, they have really tied the hands of KRA, Commissioner General, so much that we should free. And it is benefiting people who don't want to pay taxes. And they are not they are not people with no capacity. They have the capacity, but they don't want to pay taxes. Rispa, come. Maybe you have understood him better.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, CS. Thank you, everyone. So just to clarify, to just really add on to what the CS has said, I think the underlying thing, what you said, was fear. Yeah? A concern. But as the law is, if you look at that very provision, it has just itemized the sources from where the commissioner will get this information. Before that, the law is wide. It actually says that the commissioner can get information from everywhere and anywhere as long as it is for tax purposes. So it is very prescriptive. Now, what the KRA has done is, having checked with other jurisdictions, when we ask them, how do you get this information so that you're able to analyze and assess? Because in our side, there'll be restrictions from the Data Protection Act, there'll be restrictions from different sources. Now, what these jurisdictions will tell us is, tax is you have an issue, a concern with the assessment that has come to you, it is open, and the law actually prescribes that you can challenge it. So the commissioner in this case, remember right now, we have the various sources of data, and I think here it is prescribed, data protection and the KRA Act, and from the teams, all these are sources that tell us, or tell KRA, that you are trading. Then you find the same person filing nil. So that's really what it is trying to resolve. In some cases, it could be someone used your PIN to file nil or to declare VAT. So it is for you to say, no, this is not my income, just as the CSS said, this is not my income, this is what I have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, sorry, it's one of those issues. The fear with this that you will get even from Kenyans is, does this then mean that KRA is going to monitor my transactions, including my M-Pesa transactions? And I think that is the aspect of data privacy that is a bit concerning. And I think, was it just on the issue of these cases? I think the concern there is. I think the concern there is already a lot of traders are struggling to get VAT refunds. So what happens if I have appealed in court? I'm yet to get a verdict, but I've already been forced by KRA to pay this tax liability, and then getting it back becomes a process that then holds up my capital. I can't invest, I can't do business.
You know, if it is a court case, my friend, if it's a court case and the court has determined that you are not supposed to be, to have paid the tax, and then KRA definitely has an obligation to refund you. What I'm saying is, my friend, you go to court and the judges have not given you a stay order. Why do you benefit from stay order? What if every person in this country, everybody who is supposed to be paying tax, decides to challenge the tax assessment or what they are being asked to pay, everybody, and then they lose case at the tribunal, all of them. And then now, by merely filing an appeal at the High Court, you are not supposed to pay tax. Would we run a country with such kind of thing? So there should be a very good ground for giving an order, and that is what we expect our judiciary to determine. And if they determine that they realize, no, you are not supposed to pay until the case is concluded, let it be in black and white, and no one will come to you to pay the tax. But in the absence of that, honestly, it is not fair. It is not fair to KRA, and it is not fair to the country. There was the follow-up question that you had asked on this. That M-Pesa, it is, you know, let me tell you, I don't think the problem is M-Pesa. No. M-Pesa is not an income. It's a transfer of funds. No one will come for that. The problem with this amendment, which has been fought over the years, are these people we call money launderers. They are the ones who are fighting this thing because they cannot justify their income. And let me appeal to the media. Please don't support these people. Many people who should pay less taxes in this country are paying less taxes because people who are supposed to pay taxes are interfering with the legal framework that should force them to pay taxes. There are people who buy property in this Nairobi. They buy property elsewhere in this country. They have income that they cannot even explain. But because they're hiding around data protection, what, a lot of kizungumingi hapa, now they force Mama Mboga to pay for them taxes to drive their four-wheel drive cars on those roads. It is not fair at all. This is not about data privacy. Kenya Revenue Authority has all the legal mandate to look at financial records. They have it to look at financial records. And it is financial records. They ask who is my girlfriend. They have nothing to do with who is your spouse or who. That is your private data. But and the should be public. You are even calling us upon us to make our wealth declaration public. Why do you want to allow some people to hide their income and deny KRA revenue? And then now KRA comes to you. Look, we would have even reduced pay as you earn further so that people pay less. But because there are people around here who make money and they are not paying taxes, and we cover them with kizungumingi around the data privacy, what, and etc. Yeah, they go free. They get richer and richer and richer by the day. And those of us, a few of us who pay taxes, are going through a lot of burden. We because what you are earning, a huge chunk of it goes to paying taxes. Don't you think that is unfair? Why are you protecting these people? And by the way, it is you, the media, who are protecting these people. Please don't protect these people with this so-called data privacy. What will KRA do with this data? And which data is this that KRA would go for, which is private? If it is not financial data. I don't know whether we are together on this. You remember last year it was killed the same way. With this kizungu mingi. I'm telling you, data privacy. Without anyone taking their time to explain to me and to anybody else to understand what is this data privacy that you don't want KRA to check. If I have a bank account and there are huge transactions which cannot be explained, can't I pay taxes out of it? At the very least, KRA should get that data and ask me, yes, you have 10 million, 20 million, where this is your income. It is me to go and say, no, that is not my income. I have an aunt who is working somewhere. She transferred that money to me. It is not income. Or I have whatever, or a boyfriend or a girlfriend who has sent me money. It is not income. But if I cannot explain, I should surrender part of it as tax to the authorities. And cushion this mamamboga we are chasing all over the place to pay taxes. You know, I have spoken a lot about this because I get emotional about this matter. When I see people fighting for people they don't even know, and them they are not even, you are gaining nothing out of this. Actually, that amendment you are fighting, my friend, you are the culprits, you are the sufferers, you are the ones who suffer because of such people. Allow them to pay taxes so that we can fix for them roads. They drive those 4 sleek vehicles on those roads because they can buy. Tumemaliza ama kuna the very last one.
There was one question by Kefla.
Yes. Yes, quickly.
Yes, was really expected you a bit of finance bill. We expected you to give us some update about IMF. We know in the next financial year, of course, it's not been factored in the budget. But do you have any time frame when you'll be having a concrete IMF program? Of course, when they come, there will be issues of budget deficit, debt situation, the rest issue with the debt securitization. Just give us a comment.
See, we are on with the IMF. We are discussing with them even today. And anytime we agree, most likely maybe towards either in June or July, we will have agreed on whether they can give us a funded program. Yeah, of course, we are discussing with them. I cannot with certainty determine when IMF will be done with our conversation. But it's one option that we have. By the way, you know, I don't know why you people think IMF is supposed to fund Kenya. IMF is not supposed to fund Kenya. We just have to be in a program with them so that they can support our fiscal, our fiscal strength and fiscal space and fiscal. In the event we have some shocks like the one we have today, but they can come in.
Waziri, IMF less likely to push for corrective measures in the fiscal space, especially the budget deficit that right now is set to increase in the next financial year. They're also against the debt securitization. They want it factored in the budget and debt books.
But that is not new. What is news there? That's what IMF has been pushing, and that is why we have IMF in the first place, to work with countries to ensure financial and fiscal discipline. And we are working around that. Besides that, we are even working around governance diagnostics. The securitization, I think you are misreporting. We have no differences with IMF on securitization. That was before the whole thing was explained. Now we are at a very good understanding with them on securitization. I saw some headline somewhere talking about securitization. We will securitize, my friend. We have to be creative and innovative to finance this budget. We cannot continue the normal way. We will still go ahead and securitize. And that I don't think I have any apologies to make on that.
All right, Waziri, there's been a lot of proposals for Treasury and KRA to tax wealth more than just taxing the basic commodities. What do you have to say about that?
But you are resisting that. We are taxing wealth. We are saying those who have some money in their bank accounts that cannot be explained. This is wealth. We are coming for it. And you are the same one who is now hiding behind data privacy. When they umeuliza the same question on data privacy. When we go for the wealth, you are protecting those wealthy people. At the same time, you don't want us to tax income. And by the way, I am in that school of thought with you.
Yeah.
Don't tax trade. Minimal tax on trade. A little higher on income. But more taxes on wealth. That is how tax should be structured. And that is exactly what we are trying to do with these tax procedures. And when we do, you say, oh, data privacy is... Now, how will you tax the wealthy without so-called data privacy being unveiled? Nimekujibu. Kuja mwenda.
I think CSU had responded to this, but for clarity, he asked about an amendment to the one on Section 31B, and it's to do with, first, the financial services are exempt from VAT under the VAT Act, but there were services that we had not clarified. The payment service providers are not providing financial services. They are providing support services. So anybody deploying a platform to facilitate finance, that is not financial services as defined under the law. So we are clarifying that those payment service providers that facilitate financial services are not exempt, because that was the intention of the law. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mwenda. Those are not financial. If you forget everything else, pick that one. Those are not financial services. I think.
One last word.
Okay, we close it there.
Discussions on a planned refinery. How much would Kenya be willing to invest in such a facility, and would that go through the national infrastructure?
You know, ask me policies that have been discussed extensively by the government. These are thoughts that have not been put together, and the thoughts have to be put together. If I remember, I think the suggestion was to have East Africa-wide agreement. Uganda come in, Kenya comes in, and then there is a private sector participation through Dangote. So this is not something that has been presented to me in the form of a cabinet memo. The person you can ask that question and would answer probably where we are is the cabinet secretary in charge of that ministry. He will tell you, this is where we have discussed. I'm preparing cab memo to take to National Treasury. Otherwise, you will start making me now run the whole government. I'm not president, my friend. I am running National Treasury.
But is this something the National Infrastructure Fund would, ideally want